All right. Well, let's get started. A few minutes after, there may be some more, as I say, that join in. But just thought we would, we had the conference last, oh gosh, probably a week and a bit ago. So we just wanted to bring some information back to everybody that we learned while we were down there and some different things that were shared. It was actually first time since 2019 that everybody was together. About 400 executives filled the room in Nashville, which was great to see. And it was interesting sort of because there was representation from all across North America, from coast to coast. It was interesting to find out just some of the different marketplaces on what they're seeing, what they're going through, and actually how it is similar, even though you're several kilometers and miles apart. It's interesting to chat with different people from around to just see where, what their market's doing and what they're doing in their marketplace. One of the interesting parts was that, yeah, rates have gone up everywhere. But still, with the rates going up, there are buyers out there. And, the buyers are, they're looking at, what rates they can get, what's their buying power. And based on that, then you're looking at something to say, okay, how much is it going to cost me per month? And so it's no longer, what's the price? It's what's it going to cost me per month, which is what it always used to be. If you take away the last sort of few years when money was very cheap, it was always, what's my monthly cost going to be? And that gets back to being sort of more of a normal marketplace. And that's what lots of the agents were sharing, was the fact that they're back now to really talking about, what is the monthly cost going to be? What is the down payment going to be? And what does that get you? So that was interesting to see that, around the different areas, yeah, rates have gone up, but buyers are still there. Same thing we're seeing in our region of Ontario. Yeah, prices have fallen, rates have gone up, but the buyers are still there if you have the right price. And that's what came out of some of the discussions about the markets, is price is everything. And you hit the right price, there's lots of buyers. If you're not getting any activity, take a look at the price. So the pricing is important. The other issue that they talked about was, this idea that the marketplace is getting flooded with listings, so that, the market's going to crash. Well, talking to different people, it's, yeah, we've seen more listings, but it's not flooded, it's not saturated. So we are going to show you a few graphs that we've put together to show you where, the listing inventory is in comparison to what it used to be. But just from that idea of, the sharing of the marketplaces, it really became, it's back to a transition marketplace, going back to being a balanced marketplace. And no fear of it sort of being a crash to a buyer's market. Buyers will be there. Interest rates are going to level off, and they may go up a little bit. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But the overall consensus was, if you're going to be an agent and you're going to work smart and work with systems, you're going to have a very successful year coming up and years to come. So it's getting back to being, instead of being the order taker, where it was, hey, if you could find a house for me as the buyer agent, then I'll buy it, and I'll try to buy it. Or if you could get a listing, it was like, what price would you like? We'll put it on the open house and then look at all the offers. So now that marketplace is gone. Now you're back into being what we look at as the new norm. And that is going to be something we're going to talk about and share the ideas that came out of the conference on how to do that coming up, and making sure you have a successful 2023 and beyond. Michelle, next slide for me, please. So one of the slides that was sent was the idea of, where's everybody's production? Well, happy to say, out of a complete survey of production throughout, Realty executives came in at number 2 at 12.1 ends per agent per year, which is great. That gets down, that's why we are the Realty executives. And we really talk about that. And it's about the tools you have and the tools you can use, the training that's available to you. So one thing to look at is that's why we're doing these events. That's why we're going to share with you the best practices that we got from people at the conference, so you can contain and maintain that that 12.1, which is way above the industry standard. So kudos to everybody out there on working hard and doing the production and showing that this is just a slide to show you where we're at above many different competitors. So congrats on that. Another thing that came out at the event was the certified concierge expert, and obviously happy to announce that Michelle actually went through the course, graduated the course, and now is our regional certified concierge expert. And some of you have already had some contact with her. She was at the conference as well. And this will just give you some of the things that that Michelle will be doing as being, new to the region. And maybe Michelle, you can touch on some of the stuff you learned going through that course and how it's going to be a bit of a benefit.
Yeah, for sure. So the certified concierge expert is based around the fact that our prime agent has the concierge button. So you can ask Lindsay all your questions, but what Lindsay doesn't have is the capabilities to work one-on-one with people past that conversation. For our local agents in Mississauga, I have more of an opportunity to sit down with you if there's more questions you have about prime agent. I'm also happy to book Zoom sessions with people that would like some more information on prime agent. And all these tools is what we went through with International, with Realty Executives President Patrick, and all of the tech people that basically made prime agent. So I just have a little bit of that inside knowledge that I am always happy to share with everyone.
Great. So also there's another program that some of you have already elected to do, but lots of you aren't aware of it. And it's the Realty Executives Collection. And the idea is that Realty Executives is in connection with the Institute of Luxury Home Marketing. And it really is in your marketplace. They are looking at, becomes about the top 10%. So if you are working the luxury high end in your neighborhood, and there is a way of determining what that is, and Michelle can help you with that. But if it's any interest to you of working the luxury marketplace, then reach out to Michelle, or it is available just through Prime Agent. And the idea is you have to submit and go through a course. And it's not intense. It's a matter of just have to prove that you're working and have had transactions in that top 10% range in your particular area. And if you have that, then you would have the right to use these particular new signs that are specifically just for the executives that have qualified for the luxury home marketing. So if it's something you're not aware of, there were definitely executives at the conference that have utilized this. And I know some of our executives in our region have also utilized it as well. And soon what we're doing is, one of the issues was trying to get the signs. We now have the approval from International, where we will have one sign provider in Ontario that will be able to produce the signs, but again, specifically just for the luxury home executives who have qualified for the program. So if it's something you're interested in, either talk to your broker that's with your office, or check with Prime Agent, or reach out to Michelle. Okay, super. Now, the other parts, some of the things that came out of one of the sessions was stuff that was really interesting on marketing and research. And Michelle, if you could walk through, because this was stuff that I was surprised to see and didn't even know was out there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just going to go into my stop sharing this screen for a second and go into my Google, so I can actually open up these tabs for everyone and kind of show you what we went through with Marky, who at the conference did all of the online and offline social media talks. So this first one is wave.video/calendar. One of the things we find in social media marketing is that there can be things you can post every day. There can be things, in real estate that you can post every day. What we want is to engage people in things that maybe don't have to do with real estate and just have to do with interaction with you. There's a rule that 4 of the posts that you make should be for anyone versus ratio to 4 to 1 of the posts you should make is for anyone looking to buy or sell real estate. So wave.video/calendar is a free site that tells you that there's something every day. So on Tuesday, it's National America Recycles Day. Wednesday, International Day of Tolerance. There's so much that you can do with this calendar, so many ideas for content creating. And as you can see, the sync with my calendar, if you click on that, it will automatically populate in your calendar and remind you every day, you can post about this, you can post about that. You can use wave.video to create your content, or use something like Canva to create your content. The content you can also get is from Answer the Public. Answer the Public, you can put in a topic, a brand, a product, something you're interested in, something you think that your sphere of influence is interested in, and get raw search insights to talk about in your next post. So that's answerthepublic.com. We also want to see trends in, let me just move this out of the way, google.com/trends. So this is just one of the additions to Google, google.com/trends. You can enter in a term or a topic. So let's go real estate, search term, and it comes up with all the dates and interest peaks so far, comes up with who is most interested and related topics. So you might, not have quite an idea of what you want to search, but you can look at the related queries, real estate housing market, etc. These are ways to give you ideas of what content you want to post online to get engaged with your followers and with your sphere of influence.
Yeah, it was real interesting to the person that did the presentation. Just said, the question always is, what am I going to post? What am I going to post? And so that was actually the one that basically was answerthepublic.com. She said, well, if you know the questions that the public is queuing in, then why wouldn't you put your posts to answer some of those questions? So it was really insightful. And she basically said she spends 1 hour a day. Michelle, is that what she was saying? She spends 60 minutes, no longer. And all she does is go on and do multiple posts, but really gears it towards the trends, what the public is looking for. And then she looks at also on that calendar, she says, one of the posts I always do is, what is, the post of the day or the topic of the day. So we wanted to share that with you because engaging in the consumer is so important now, more so than, when you think that you're engaging by sending out an email, sending out, I posted something. Well, right now and moving forward, we're back into, let's call it the new norm. And now everything has to shift from being the crazy market we had over the last 2 years into being a new normal market. And, so we want to share some ideas and how you can engage with the consumer and really what points you need to be looking at. So Michelle, you can switch over to the next slide. That'd be great. So what is the new norm? Well, the new normal real estate as a realtor is you really have to focus on your mindset. You really have to set your goals. You have to plan out your 2023. You should be doing that now. You have to look at what is my daily, activity going to be? What's my weekly activity going to be? What are my big goals, small goals, daily goals? And understanding that, you're a real estate salesperson, and in any sales, there's activities you have to do. You have to do activities to be able to move the needle forward so you can get into the production part of it. So the whole idea behind it is we need to look at, first of all, what's your mindset? Make sure it's positive. look at, what are your goals, big or small. You just have to look at what are they, right? So the whole idea behind it is you need to say, okay, what's my activities? What do I expect from these activities? The other thing that came out of the conference is the interactions. Right now, over the last little bit, it's been, okay, I sent out a bunch of emails, I sent out texts, I sent out, but what was missing was the actual meaningful interactions where you're actually having a meaningful conversation, you're having a meaningful interaction, not just a touch point. So that's something that you need to concentrate on. Like we used to, years ago, we used to just call, hey, we're gonna go find somebody to have coffee with and have a discussion with. And those are things that you need to be looking at doing. And we're gonna sort of go through some action plans for you very shortly. You have to perfect your presentations. The last few years, we've been, you've been running, and realistically, a listing presentation was you show up and you say, yep, here's what we think the price is, or here's where the market is. This is where we should price it, and this is what we're going to do. Well, now there could be, you need to go in with a presentation. You need to make sure you know the verbiage that you want to say. You have to look at with supporting documentation, and that's where we're talking about. It's a different narrative and different verbiage now versus what you had during the last pandemic time. Now it's going in and saying, okay, here's the information. You have to understand your consumers, they can go online and get a whole bunch of information about what's for sale, what's sold. What they need is that professional that's going to come in and say, decipher that information and explain it, and have to set the expectations so that when you're going in on either a buyer presentation or a listing presentation, you're going through and you have it perfected. You've practiced it. Don't practice while you're in front of your clients, practice up before. So when you go in, you can go and do a good presentation, and you're going to need those presentations. And you've got to understand that the client's probably going to have 2 or 3 other people that are going to come in. So important to make sure that your presentations are good, make sure that your narrative is precise, and you're explaining and you're setting expectations on how this whole scenario is going to go start to finish for them, and have supporting documents. And we're going to give you some examples of supporting documents shortly. So a couple of things from the new norm that really you have to look at is conversation is a must. And this was a point that was brought out several times at the conference is, yeah, you can send out a text, you can send out email, you can, look at picking up the phone, which is great, having a conversation. But ironically enough, look at the age group. And this is the age group that over the last few years, oh, they don't want to talk on the phone. Well, it's turning out that they know that, yeah, their first interaction may be online by text or email, but they want to be 18 to 34. They want to be in front of somebody. They want to see and hear from that person that they're going to be dealing with, because they're looking to say, I want to, first got to find out if I like this person, can I trust them? And if I can, I want to work with them. So understanding that you need to have that conversation. Don't hide behind the email or hide behind the text and say, oh yeah, no, I'm prospecting. You have to pick the phone up. You've got to get in front of people. So that's one big thing that came out of the executives that were sharing what's going on. They're saying, yeah, picking up the phone is a must. Getting in front of people, having that meaningful conversation is a must. The other must that came out of it is branding. In a market change, when in a slowdown, majority of the agents are going to pull back on any marketing that they were doing. They're going to pull back on, spending money. They're going to pull back on, trying to hide and say, I'm going to just sort of go behind my text and things like that. What you need to look at is you've got to look at having the fact that you are going to be branding yourself. And it came out at the conference where branding is so important. So you need to have, the clothing that's got the logo on it. You need to have the lapel pins. You need to have your binders that's got your information on it. And you need to look at, one of the challenges was wearing a name badge. Get a nice name badge, wear it all the time, wear it when you're out. And you'd be amazed at what conversations will come from that. I know that, I always wear my lapel pin, and I've been in places where I've had my binder with me that has the Realty executives on it, and I get asked questions. So, if you don't want to do, if you do any, let me correct that. If you want to do any type of prospecting, get logoed up, go sit at a Tim Hortons or a Starbucks and just do your work there, and you'll be surprised on how a conversation will start. And that's one thing you've got to look at. And that's one thing that came out of the conference was branding is so important. And it's the ones that do the branding that have that consistent success. So that's why we wanted to bring that out and let people know that if you haven't been doing any branding, you got to look at differentiating yourself from the generic branding that you might be doing. You've got to come up with some kind of tagline or logo that would be part of your brand, and we can help with that. But that definitely was the topic that came out from conversations at the conference, that branding is so important, where, as I said earlier, lots of times in a shifting market, agents back away from doing the branding. So something that you need to look at. One of the other points that came out on one of the panels was determining the gaps in your business. And what we mean by that is you may be doing some great things, but there may be one or two things that you're doing in prospecting that could be just tweaked a little bit to give you higher return on what you're doing. So one of the things that we're hoping to do is look at, anybody that's interested, looking at how you run your business. And you can also go to your broker owners and share with them how you're running your business. And they can sit with you and just say, if you just tweak this, or if you just added this into what you're doing, you would find that it'll fill in some of the gaps that you may be missing, that links all your marketing together, links your conversation together, that would add to the success. So that's something that also came out at the conference. And, so it's really interesting. All the different things that were discussed were from many different areas, different marketplaces, but they were all had the same theme, and they were all coming from executives that were in the trenches doing stuff. So we thought it'd be very important to share that, what we got from being in attendance there. And it was super information. So we're hoping that to share, as we say, we're sharing that with you, and we want to make it so that, any follow-up, or if there's anything that you need, that we're here to help, and from any information from the conference. Market update. Well, I guess the easiest way to talk about it is changing. And it's real estate. It's going to keep changing. And the things that we have to look at are such things as, where is the market going to go? Biggest questions are, the interest rates. What's going to happen with them? Well, different economists have, have different versions, but the common version is that, the Bank of Canada has basically said they're raising interest rates to strictly fight inflation. And that is very common, not just in Canada, United States, Great Britain, around the world. This is what they're doing. They're raising interest rates to fight inflation. So one of the things to look at is they anticipate, at least in Canada, we're going to see an interest rate jump by about another 0.5 to 3/4 of a point. Then it's going to level off, probably settle off somewhere between 4.5 and 4 3/4. Once it is sitting there, we'll probably sit there for majority of 2023. And then we'll start seeing the interest rate come back down by about 1 point to 1.5 points and settle somewhere around that 3.5 range, which is not a bad interest rate, and it's actually an interest rate for many years that we saw, good, steady real estate industry. So one of the things to look at is beyond that, though, once that comes down, then, so 2023, a little bit more of a transition. 2024, 2025, and 2026, anticipation is we're going to see a gradual market increase in valuations because we're still going to have a limited supply. They can't build enough to be able to do what they need to get it into a buyer's market, which is fine. But there's going to be buyers and sellers. They're going to be operating under the new interest rates and the new, what is my, what's my monthly cost going to be. Immigration has been increased. Last year, 401,000 were welcome to Canada. 70% of those were already living in Canada. So we didn't see the influx of actual people as much as numbers that elected who were already here to immigrate. Now, moving forward, governments are talking about, if that's going to be the case, they're going to look at possibly increasing that number above the 400 for specific directed immigrants. That would be trades, healthcare. So they're going to look at above that 400 specific, which means we're going to have more people coming into Canada. Majority of them end up in Ontario, which is great. So that is going to push our marketplace in Ontario. And so that is something to look at. The other thing to look at is the effect of when you have a leveling off and then you start having momentum moving forward, is it's exactly going to be that. It's going to be a nice steady marketplace. And we've got some slides of history that we recommend you're going to use to explain to your clients on what's actually going to be happening. Okay, so Michelle, we can move forward. That'd be great. This chart, and I'm going to show you different charts from different suppliers, okay, different ways of getting it. But if you look at this chart, it goes back to 2009, and you look at taking out the actual 2021 that crazy marketplace, it's a very nice gradual increase. And once we level off, this is what we're going to see. You're going to see that continuation, just that normal, great, balanced real estate market, which is a great marketplace to be in. So if you're showing this, if you actually look at charts, and this is from ITSO, so if you're a member of an ITSO board, you have the availability to get these charts right in your own MLS system. But look at the standard one is like 2 or 3 years. If you look at the 2 or 3, yeah, it looks like, okay, we're the sky's falling. Use this one, which is the maximum one that you can go to, and you can see, you can explain it to your consumers. Look, this is where the market, we're into a normal marketplace, taking out that period of time. Michelle, next one. And so here's an example of, people are saying, oh, we're getting flooded with listings. Well, based on the chart back to 2009, I don't know about you, but that looks like, pretty standard looking ups and downs and, heartbeat of the real estate industry right there, right? So anticipate that we're going to, as we go into the spring, we're going to see that line go back up as we do every, February, March, where we get that new listings coming in. So looking at this is a great chart to show to your buyers that, like, this is a normal marketplace we're in. The sky's not falling. So don't know why you're waiting, because we're going to start, if it's normal, we know that we're going to see a push in the spring. You always want to try and be ahead of that push. So homes for sale, we're talking about the market being flooded and worrying about that. Well, for those that have been, realtor from 2009 through to today, we had wonderful marketplaces all the way through. And if you look at the number of homes for sale, we're well still below, 50% of the years that we're doing this. So to look at this, I would use this and explain it to the buyer, saying, you know, we're not getting flooded in listings. This is going back to being a normal marketplace. And to the sellers, I would say, look, yes, we've had an increase. So it's important to make sure that your listing price is competitive. But, you know, taking the fear out, and these are third-party stats, right? It's not you just talking to somebody, it's you sharing and saying, look, here's the information, but explaining, being able to show them and let them understand it. You know, and they're talking about unit sales being down. Yeah, unit sales are definitely down from the peak that we had in June 2020 to just in February. But if you look in history, we're following exactly what we were supposed to be following. So anticipation is, I'm sure we look at this graph in June next year, we're going to see that in the spring of 2023, it spiked up and we had number of sales, and as it normally would, we see that fall off in the summer and then peak up a little bit in the fall and back down again. Normal marketplace. And this is history to show it. Days on market. Again, looking at days on market is we're still below what we've been seeing over the last several years. And if you look at it, you notice that it looks like it's going to start changing again. Well, right now we're sitting at around 22, 23 days on the market, which is well below, right? If you look at the ones that were 30, 40, 50 days on the market. And those years were good, strong, steady marketplace. And we know after that steady, strong marketplace, we saw an increase in pricing all the way through. So looking at a buyer, I'd say, hey, here, take advantage of what's going on. Get in before we start seeing over the next few years back to, price increasing. Okay. Again, month supply, we're still under 4. We're sitting around just over 3 months of supply, but again, history shows that's okay. The marketplace can absorb what we're doing. And it's more of a steady, good market. If you're a realtor working in a good, steady market and you're doing all the right stuff, it can be a very successful career. So don't be afraid of what you're hearing about it. And that's where we're saying mindset is important. This reinforces the fact that this is a good market. You got to be working it, but it's a good market. And it's going to be a good market for several more years. Okay. So that gives you an idea of if you're on the ITSO board, any of the members on ITSO, you can use those charts. TREB members, you can use they have the same charts, similar ideas going back. You can go in, you can do 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, you can go out even further. But again, these are TREB stats and very similar that you're seeing to the other 25 ITSO boards, that our pricing is still up, from, it's not as high as obviously what it was in February, but definitely higher than what it was in 2019 and 2020. So moving forward, yeah, we're seeing that the pricing is, leveling off. It's not crashing. Okay. So as TREB members, you have the availability to use these kind of charts. Okay. So use them. And if you're not sure how, then in TREB, they do actually have some training videos and stuff that they show you how to do it. Okay. Next one, Michelle. Yeah, I just want to, that's again, TREB showing what's going on. So again, very similar, like history shows, we're in good marketplace. Okay. Now, this is the one that I don't know of a lot of agents that are using this, and it's called, the home price index. And Michelle, let's just see, is there anybody that is actually using this? This is, some of the boards will actually be connected to this, so your boards can use it. They allow you to go in, but it's actually can be supplied by CREA. And what's really interesting about this particular one is I think it was Kelly asking last time we were chatting about the boards, some of them don't allow me to go in and be specific about a property. It just gives me a detached. Well, with the home price index, you can actually go in and it'll set it for instance, in an area, 3-bedroom bungalow, finished basement, and it'll only use those particular comparables and set it up that way. Versus, so the home price index is one that the Canadian Real Estate Association has started actually back in 2005. That's where they started gathering the information. And every month there are charts that you can take that it can be very specific to a particular area that you're working. But this only is for the actual pricing, okay? It will give you history on a price, but it can be fine-tuned down to a particular, for instance, if you only wanted, attached townhomes, 2-story in a specific area, this product allows you to do it, okay? And it'll allow you to see the pricing based on those particular features versus what a lot of the other charts are doing is saying, okay, detached house, taking all of them, doesn't matter if it was a bungalow, doesn't matter if it was a 2-story, it was a detached house, and this is how it's sold. And that's why you see that variant. With the home price index, it really dives in deeper and shows more of a consistency. It's like, for instance, right now on some of the charts that just do average sales, it shows a big drop in pricing. Yet when you do a home price index based on a certain area in a specific house with 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, finished basement, that line coming down is not as steep. So is there anybody using this? Okay. So highly recommend, okay, it's available through CREA. So if you basically just go, like for instance, if we're going to send the recording out, we'll send out this information, but do go through the home price index, because in addition to what your boards, and your board may have this, okay, like if you're a member of the Toronto Real Estate Board, it has a direct link right in market stats for home price index, okay? But to understand how it works, go to basically realtorlink.ca and go through the help guide, the intro video, the tutorials, because the way they've done it is they give a factor. Okay, so you have to understand what the factor is. They will give a factor to the base, what they call a benchmark. Okay, so they look at a benchmark, and from that benchmark, then that goes up or down. But it's all based on, they set a benchmark of 2005, and now they can move that up, and you can bring that down to each month. For instance, you could do, if you're working a certain area, you could say, all right, in this particular area, here's what the townhouses, bungalows did. Here's what townhouses 2-stories did. Here's what, and they give you charts, they give you graphs. So just another way of showing that you're more than just the typical realtor. Obviously, with our organization doing over 12 ends per person a year, you're doing the right stuff. And this is another tool that doesn't matter where you are in Ontario, you have the ability to use it. Okay, and it's really good information, really good graphs. Great if you're looking at doing monthly stats. You can just go in and use this and fine tune it better. Okay, so it is definitely a tool that we found that is very, very helpful. And more agents are starting to use it. I'm seeing more use it, but that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention. Again, CREA is a great resource for learning that. If you're having difficulty, reach out to me and we'll figure it out for you. Okay. 2023, not that far around the corner. Obviously, with some of us, our first snowfall last night, so we know we're getting, I know there's some snow sleds getting tuned up, ready to go, and I know skis are getting buffed, ready to go. 2023 is around the corner. You should be doing stuff now that can help you go into 2023 with some momentum. One of the topics that came out of the conference was if you want to have a good start to 2023, you got to have a good last 60 days of 2022. And I've always been a big believer of that. So Debbie DeGroot, for those of you that do follow her, she is the coach that we have on Prime Agent in the Exec University. She did a session and we're sharing that with the 10 must-dos now to propel your 2023. And we're going to share that with you. And we hope that you will do at least some of these actions, because these are things that we know will help you kickstart your 2023. Okay. First thing is, you got to figure out, we talk about goals, how many transactions did you want to do in 2022? Did you do it? How many more listings did you take in 2022? Analyze where they came from. Okay. How many people do you have to talk to in a day to be able to get to final, your last little bit of 2022 action items? So if you want to take an extra couple listings before the end of the year, how many appointments do you have to go on to be able to get that? Okay. You got to look at how many calls, like again, getting down to that daily activity. Okay. And if you know what you're doing right now is giving you a certain level of that, certain numbers that you're obtaining, and you want to do more than that, well, then you have to up what you're doing before that. So you may have to look at doubling, tripling the conversations that you're having, the appointments you're having. Because understand, like today, when you're going around and talking to different people or looking at doing the conversations, you may get somebody that needs to do something now, but they may not need to do something for 60 days, 90 days. So you're building up for the next year. You've got to get, if you've got nothing going on, this is a great opportunity to get in front of somebody, get in front of a person, get in front of a group. There's lots of different things going on. I've shared this with many of you before. I go out, I go to Costco, I buy their big poinsettias. I think they're 20 or 25 bucks. And I can fit 9 of them on one of those flat carts. I buy 9 at a time and I have them and I go around and I'm just doing pop by some of my past clients, anybody that did business with me. And it's just a knock on the door. Hey, just in the area, but I wanted to drop this off to you. How are things going? Is there, what do you see? Any future real estate stuff? Anybody just interested in it? You let me know, but I wanted to drop this off and say, hey, just thanks. So great time to do that. And I do about 25 to 30 a year. I can tell you from doing those, I always have deals that happen the next year. I always find out something about one of their family members or themselves and make a note of it and move on. And I am not in that, I'm not in their lobby, their house, more than 5 minutes.
Can I say something? Sorry I was so late joining. I had technical difficulties. I send birthday cards, and I find the birthday cards are super effective too, to keep in touch with people that are on your client list.
Yeah, anything. You should be doing all of that. Absolutely.
Like birthday cards and Christmas cards. But I find the birthday cards, people are like, oh my God, you remembered my birthday. Well, I have your FinTrack information. So yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's where, like, looking at, the next, from here to the end of the year, great opportunity to pop by. And, as I say, I just know, I know the poinsettias work for me. I'm sure there's other items, other things that people do, but just getting in front of people and starting that conversation. Make sure that you're going to speak to, your past client list and sphere of influence, and the simple question is, what are your real estate related plans? Don't ask if they're going to be buying or selling, because they may not be, but they may be looking at an investment property. They may turn around and go, you know what, this year it looks like, mom and dad or mom and dad are going to be moving. So we're going to look at dealing with that in the coming year. All you're looking for is to, instead of sitting back between now and the end of the year and going, okay, it's always slow November, December. These are some action items that you could do now, between now and the end of the year, that'll give you a start and maybe finish off the 2022 the way you want. Okay. Work on your business plan for 2023. Realty Executives has write-in prime agent, great business plan that you can use, go through it. And, you know, just take some time. Don't try and crash into it and just all absorb. Just take little snippets of it. You know, say, you know what, for, 30 minutes a day for, even the next little bit, I'm going to work on it. Instead of waiting until mid-January, work on it now. And so that you can go through it and build on it. So it's not a big encumbrance to try, oh, I got to do my business plan. Just do little bits of it. Look at what your 2022 business plan was, assuming you had one, of course, and then go through and build out and start building out your 2023. Okay. And then start implementing some of it so that hitting 2023, you've already started. You're not waiting to get going. Okay. Look at your schedule. Okay. Really, one of the things that came out of the conference was, the last 2 years of real estate, we were like running. If there was a new listing and we had buyers, we were running like crazy. Okay, we got to go show this. We got to go show that. Or, the people want to sell. I'm dropping everything to go talk to them. Well, now what you have to look at, the new norm is you got to be consistent. So you got to look at what are your action items that you should be doing on a daily, weekly basis and break it down to income producing. So income producing is where you're actually in front of somebody or you're talking to somebody about buying and selling real estate, okay? Income servicing is what are you doing to support those appointments, those conversations? And stuff is just the other stuff, working on some marketing, working on some stuff. So make sure that you're doing some income producing things, daily. And look at saying, okay, what is my schedule? And we talked about earlier, you got to have that daily schedule, weekly schedule, because that is going to give you the production 60, 90 days out. Okay. And look at what hours of the day are best for you. Conversation at the conference, lots of them, despite what people think, lots of them found their first thing in the morning, 8 a.m. to noon is when they have their highest energy and when they have their best conversations. So anyways, something to look at. And then the other thing is eliminate or get away from some of the time waster things that you might be doing because you want to focus on doing some income producing stuff. Okay. While you're looking at your scheduling, I'm a big believer in, and as lots who are at the conference, is really setting your schedule for your personal time, personal health. I book off. I have a trainer that I'm at the gym and I book it in. It's an appointment. Monday mornings, Thursday mornings. I book it in. I also book in, I like power walking. So I book in my power walking. Winter's here, so I'm booking in when I'm going to be skiing. Book it in and you're going to do it. So that's where you have to look at and just say, okay, yeah, you could do real estate 24/7. I don't recommend it. I tried doing that and it's hard work. But at the end of it, you're burnt out. It's a great way, great industry, but book your time and make sure you book your own time for health, for fitness, for just relaxing and work around that. My big thing is, if you want to get busy, book a trip. You book a holiday and look how busy you get just before that. But in your regular day-to-day stuff, highly recommend you put it in your daytime or you plan it, it becomes an appointment. Okay. This is a great time of year to look at, your financial position where, what did I spend on marketing last year? What are my monthly costs? What do I have to look at to be able to do the way I want to live? What are my monthly costs going to be? What do I have to do for both personal and business? What transactions do I have to do? Look at the overhead that you're having. Look at money you're spending for marketing. Is it effective? If not, redirect it. Okay, so great time of year. I always do it. I always look at And I sit down with my family, we go through everything and say, okay, here's where we're at. This is, where we want to get to. What do we have? What's working, what's not? And we go through it. So I highly recommend you do that. Anything that was sort of on your, projects to be done and you sort of worked through some of them, and it was always the last thing, oh yeah, I'll get to that, I'll get to that. To the end of the year, great opportunity to look at, cleaning up your CRM, looking at your database, go through your database, make sure the people that are in there, you look at them. I always do. I always go through and look at what my database is. I actually sit down this time, probably between beginning of December, mid-December. I go through everybody in my database and I write on a sheet. I'm looking at right now, 2022 client opportunities. And I just go through and I look at everybody in my database and say, okay, I think when I chatted with them, they were talking about 2-3 years out, or, they were mentioning they were looking at, the child going off to university, looking at possibly renting or buying something. So go through your database, look at that, look at outlining in your marketing calendar, what are you going to do for your marketing? Go into Prime Agent and set up your database so that you can do the drip marketing, and set it up now, right? Set it up now while you're not busy, or while you have time to focus on it, and then it's done. Instead of thinking, okay, January, I better set it up, and all of a sudden you're getting backtracked. Okay, so wrap up some of those things. This is really interesting. What came out of some of the discussions and then through Debbie's coaching program, 70% of business comes from lead follow-up. So if you think about that, and you get that, that online lead that maybe you didn't get to right away, or you're not really working on lead generation. That could be anything, but you could be, working your database. But 70% of business comes from lead follow-up. And what that means is you may have tried to connect with them once, you didn't connect with them. You sent them an email, you didn't get a response. History and basically it shows seven times. Okay, you need to have some kind of follow-up with one particular lead for that to turn into a transaction, the opportunity of a transaction. So you think you've made the effort where, oh yeah, I followed up with them, they didn't get back to me. Keep following up with them until they tell you to delete, I'm not interested, or they've done something. Okay, really important. Follow up, follow up, follow up. The other thing is, just look around and figure out, who are you associating with, who you want to hang out with, what activity groups do you want to be part of that are important to you, that you'll get some passion, share some passion with. So highly recommend that you look at and take the time to say, maybe there's some groups, maybe there's some charity things that you were thinking of doing but you haven't done, and you'd enjoy doing it. This is a great time to analyze that, implement it, and set the schedule for 2023. Yeah, I know I've got a bunch of boxes in my office I still have to go through. So, looking at, just cleaning up the environment, cleaning up your office environment, purging your emails, looking at, updating your websites, updating your profiles, making sure your listing presentations, buyer packages are current. This is the time of year that you can really focus on doing those things, and we highly recommend it. And again, another thing is, great opportunity to look at going through your database and doing those pop-bys. And if you've got sellers that you've got on, buyers that you're working with, great opportunity just to sit down with them and just go through it. It's a holiday season, gives you easy opportunity to say, hey, I was just popping by. And I know it works. I've done it for years. I know the agents that do it get real good success from it. So I'm going to open it up just for a little bit of discussion before we talk about something else we're going to be doing this year. Any other thoughts? Is there anything that anybody else does between now and the end of the year that you have found to be successful in kickstarting the next year? Come on, there's lots of good people on this. I know there's stuff you're doing now to kickstart your stuff. All right. Okay. All right, Michelle, next one.
I was just gonna say, just advertising.
Yeah, this is, you're absolutely right, Nancy. This is the time of year that lots of agents stop their advertising, right? So take advantage of that. Look at what advertising opportunities there are. Lots of agents stop their branding between now and they start it up again in late February, March.
And you can't, you've got to stay in their face. You have to be constant through the whole thing.
Absolutely, you are correct. And so that's the thing, the consistency, right? The consistency of the message.
Yeah.
So this is one stat that I found very interesting, and I'm going to share this with you because I do hear from different agents and throughout different companies. Well, why do we have Realtor.ca? It really doesn't do anything. It's, Realtor.ca in 2021 had all kinds of consumers going there. So what you have to look at is, what is your presence on Realtor.ca? Because lots of agents don't think it is a good, viable website. 52% of the Canadian consumers will go to Realtor.ca before any other online site. 52%. So if you're looking at like 6.2 million leads were sent to realtors in 2021, okay, up 36%. 111 unique visitors, up 53, up 38%. 1.9 billion properties, 15.7 million realtors profile viewed. 15.7 million realtor profiles viewed. We have about 115,000 realtors in Canada. There's a lot of profiles that are being looked at. So one of the things you have to ask yourself is, what's my profile look like? What's my bio look like? Am I connected properly? Do I have my social media stuff connected properly? And so, don't exclude this great tool. And it was one of the points that came out at the international conference is, in the United States, they have Realtor.com. That was owned and operated by the National Association of Realtors in the States. They did not protect it properly. They did not trademark it properly. They did not have the real estate boards trademarked it properly. So they lost it to a third party. The third party took all the information, Realtor.com, private company, now is selling the information back to the agents to get their information on there. Realtor.ca, owned and operated by you, a member of the Canadian Real Estate Association. Okay. No cost to advertise, put your listings up on it. It goes through your board. 52% of the consumers go online in Canada to Realtor.ca. Man, that's a place I want to make sure I'm utilizing to 100%. And I know lots of us aren't. Okay. So next one, Michelle. So this is where we want to sort of talk about your online presence and CEO audit. And this is something that Michelle has been brought on board, and she's doing great stuff with really digging in and looking at people's profiles. And she's been doing some beta testing with some individuals within the Realty Executives Plus company. And one of the things we discovered is there's lots of disconnect. And we were talking about gaps in your business. And maybe Michelle, if you could share sort of some of the stuff that you found and what we're going to be working on. But with your permission, we at the region would like to go through and look at every executive in the region. We'd like to go through and sort of do an audit on where you are, maybe some of the gaps, and some suggestions on what you could implement to really up the possibility of getting more leads from just by tweaking some stuff. Maybe Michelle, you could share what you found through some of your testing.
Yeah, so the number one thing that I found is that many people get distracted by how much social media there is. There's so many different platforms that you can be on, and sometimes you're not really sure where the best place to go is, what you should be using, what you shouldn't be using. One of the disconnects is that people will populate all different kinds of social medias, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, all of these, except they won't actually use them. So what I'm trying to do is help you streamline your online presence. We want people to see that you're engaged. We want people to see that you are active in your business, that you are promoting yourself and what you do for buyers and sellers. So what I do is I go through all the social medias. I visit your website. I go to your realtor.ca profile, your prime agent profile, and I make sure that you are best representing yourself online. The number one thing that a person's going to do once they hear your name is Google you. There are so many free ways of advertising yourself that I just want to make sure that you're doing everything possible to get the best out of real estate.
So what we're looking at doing is we have come up with about 18 different categories for online platforms. So what we would like is permission, and we've already talked to some of the brokers about this, and do have their blessing to say, absolutely, good idea. We are going to go through and look at 18 points, do basically a spreadsheet where you are currently, where we think there are some issues. And something just a simple one was Michelle did an audit on somebody and found out that they thought they had their Google My Page, business page. Well, it turned out that somehow it got linked to somebody else. And so just those little corrections, and she contacted Google and got it all figured out and straightened away. But that's what we would like to do, because I believe, especially if you look at the things like realtor.ca, the way the consumers are right now, where they're going to be in a normal marketplace moving forward, you need to have all of these things working in your favor. And you may find that you think and there will be some that are doing a real good bang up job, but you just may be missing that one little gap that may help link everything together better, where you get that extra lead that you may not have gotten. So this is where we would like to implement, and going to go through it and look at each individual, send a report to your broker owner and yourself, and basically say, here's what we found, here's what we would recommend. And so that's what we would like to offer up. And if it is something that you definitely would like to have done right away, then Michelle, you've got your information that you could put up there, and we will send this out. Send a recording to everybody that's got it. And if that's something you're interested in, then you just fire your name off to Michelle, or the broker owners can send a list off, and we will get on it and send you back reports. But we think it's something that would really be a benefit. It also, you also understand that the more that we can get every executive using and linking everything properly, the more the brand itself becomes aggregately better. Okay. And beyond that, I just open it up for any questions, comments, thoughts. Yeah, Julia.
Do you have any plans on updating the Schedule B for Plus? I understand the non-resident purchase has to be included in all offers kind of going forward because of the government changes.
The Korea is actually talking about updating some of their documents as they normally do. So I am waiting to see what they're actually going to be updating. And what the reference is as of January 1st, 2023, non-residents cannot buy in Canada for 2 years. And that's what, Julie, that's what you're referencing? Okay. And so what the recommendation is that in the agreements, they're talking about that there would now be a clause that states that the buyer is not a non-resident. They're also talking about that should be in the buyer representation agreement as well. And the reason that it's recommended that it be in there is because the government has come forward and said that it's not, in the event that it is, the person is buying and is a non-resident, and the parties that were part of that, so the realtors, the consumers, anybody that was part of that transaction could be liable and subject to a fine. And so what to make sure of is that we ask those questions. So it would either be if you are a broker owner and you use the Schedule B, or if you don't, in your offers, then if they don't change the agreements to include something like that, then absolutely there would be something that we would attach to as a listing company, our Schedule Bs, stating that the buyer hereby does acknowledge and represent that they are not a non-resident. Okay, but the talk is that the boards in Korea are looking at updating the forms to include some of that verbiage. And that's only for transactions written after January 1st, by the way, not closings, okay? It's just for deep transactions written after January 1st. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? Information good? Hopefully you got something out of it. We feel there's some really good points that came out of the conference. We feel there's going to be some good stuff that comes out of, looking at the tools that you can use and implementing them. We're also going to be doing from the region, we're going to be trying to do a lot more of these type of informational sessions and some training events and things like that. So hopefully you'll find those valuable as we go through 2023. If there's any topics that you would like us to cover, by all means, send an email out to Michelle or myself, and we would certainly investigate looking at doing those. Beyond that, Michelle, anything else that we have to cover? No? Any other thoughts, questions? Well, then we look forward to getting some permission from you to look at going through and doing the audits, and we look at helping you build your business moving forward, because please understand, okay? The next 5 years, 10 years in real estate are going to be just fine. You're just going to have to work. You're going to have to be diligent about how you work, but it's going to be a very successful career for you. And we're here to help any way we can. On that note, take care, everybody. Great to see you. And we will send out the recording.
Thank you.